Hey, what's going on, Fantasy Flavor Podcast listeners, YouTube viewers? What's up? My name is Dylan Thomas. I'm joined here with Sanatan and Trenton. How you both
I
doing?
good.
Mhm.
We are exhausted with the new startup that we have in the fantasy flavor dynasty startup, and we have a lot of discussions on who we are picking.
Oh yeah.
So it's fun and
Mhm.
exhausting.
Yeah,
I am somewhat out of quarantine now though, so at least I can get out and about. I'm not stuck in the house.
yeah, definitely nice
Okay.
here. So just before we start today's episode of talking about a few of the NFL draft winners and losers, I just want to make sure if you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure to subscribe. I believe over 70% of our listeners are not subscribed, so maybe you just forgot to subscribe. I know sometimes that happens. So hit subscribe, hit the like button, and if you're on podcast platforms, make sure to subscribe there too. Leave us a 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it during this time, and put a smile on our faces while the world around us is just kind of a sad place. So we'd appreciate it. But let's begin with Sanan here. He's going to be talking about the first NFL draft winner. Who do we got?
Yeah, before I start, I just also want to mention that please also join our Discord channel. It's in the link below, and you can discuss all your trades and everything. We are very um, prompt there, so someone will answer you immediately. So please join that. And talking about a winner, my first winner is someone who can bring a smile to Dylan's face, and it's Nakil Harry of New England. So, uh, Belichick did throw us a doozy, right? He had like 10 draft picks, and they did not select any wide receivers. Who would have thought, right? I mean, they have two older guys in Edelman and Sanu, and I for sure was certain that they are going to draft a wide receiver in this, deep class, but they did not. So then who else is Harry competing with apart from Middleman and Sanu? There are no other names that can come to mind or someone can remember. Um, Apart from that, I also read a news, thanks to Dylan, which said that he is consulting a footwork king, if you may, who has also worked with clients like OBJ, Hopkins, CD Lamb, and he's trying to improve his footwork so that he can um, get a good release of jam. So, I think he's helping himself. He knows that being a first rounder draft pick from last year is a big responsibility on his shoulders, and that and New England not picking anyone is also a kind of a testament that they believe in him. And the other interesting thing is that Stidham and Harry were roommates in the last year's training camp, and I'm pretty sure that they must have developed some chemistry. They are good friends, and since now it's pretty much certain that Stidham is going to be the quarterback of New England, I think that will really help Harry. Um, he also has the elite metrics that has not gone anywhere while coming out of college, the breakout age and the good spark score, everything. He's still very young, 22 years old. He has great
Mhm.
size and speed. So and he's a very good red zone threat. So last year he had like 12 receptions, and among 12 he had like two touchdowns. He also had some rushing attempts too. So when you look at all of these things, I really feel that he's worth a shot, because you don't have to pay a lot right now. People are still very low on him. I don't know why. Maybe they are just burned that they spent a lot of capital last year and he did not pan out. People just don't, give away. They don't let go of that anger if they have to spend so much and not get any production. So probably that's why. So I think he's a great buy right now. Maybe he'll be a bit, costlier now, but before the draft, if you had listened to us and went ahead and bought him, that would be great.
Yeah, I made a video breakdown of him 7 months ago. Over 1,000 views. One of our most viewed things here on the YouTube channel. So make sure to check it out. Just scroll back to Keel Harry Fantasy Football Breakdown. I broke down a little bit of film, a lot of advanced metrics. I know Trenton isn't the highest on Nikhil, but I think overall this has to be good for his value because they have no competition. So whether you
Yeah.
think Nikhil's a bust or not, he's gonna have all the time in the all the opportunity to prove it. So,
Yeah.
and I think working with that footwork king is pretty good because those guys have good releases. They have good footwork there. And that's something with the separation that is a problem. That's why he doesn't get open. He has terrible releases. So at least he's addressing his weaknesses. So it'll be interesting. There's definitely a higher chance, definitely more than when he came out of college, to bust now. So it's a little bit of reward risk, but I like this buy. I think he's going pretty
Yeah, he's
cheap.
not very costly too. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can get for a late or mid second easy. I think that's not a bad price to pay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have anything to add, Tren?
Yeah, going back to one thing you said, Sonat, that he was a good touchdown guy. I have to disagree with that. He's not that great in the red zone. He just has a body that looks like it could be, but it's not that great. But looking at him going to like a route running specialist, footwork specialist, that is very promising because that was his biggest issue coming out. He struggled on those routes and stuff. So
But
sure, he definitely is a winner of the offseason because they didn't add that competition, but make him not.
okay, and he's a great contested catch guy. So I
Hmm.
mean, those guys succeed in red zone. I'm maybe his college production was not that way, but if you are a contested catch guy, who says you are not a good red zone threat if the ball is thrown to you? And
He's
he
just
made a
weird
very
in
good
that
catch
way.
last year. He made a very
Right.
good catch last year in the end zone when Brady threw him the ball.
Mm.
I liked
Hmm.
it. So
I will say the
Yeah,
one
he's
thing.
just weird that
Mhm.
way to me. I think
could be.
he's a great contested catch guy, but he's not that great in the red zone. He's not that guy. He's a contested catch guy that'll get you first downs, but I
Mhm.
don't think he'll get you that high touchdown total that you expect.
Yeah, I think that has to do with his releases too. I talked about that in my video. When he has this super
Mhm.
nice release, he gets open like OBJ. I kid you not. Like he ran a slant. I think it was versus Iowa or something. Like he just got like wide open. I went, holy crap! He was open like half a second. So I will say also he had a touchdown callback versus Kansas City. His foot was not out of bounds. It was very clearly in
Yeah, it
bounds,
was
and they
not.
blew
Yeah.
it. So he'd have
Mhm.
what would that be? 3 touchdowns and 13 catches.
Three,
So you
12
know
catches. Yeah.
maybe he's not the best at the red zone, but they used him like that. And he played awful, right? But he overtook Sanu, who also kind of blew up versus your Ravens, but then kind of fell off too. So I feel like he'll come in and he'll be their starter. And instead of him to have that connection, he's working. He's been every single day on Instagram because I follow my Patriots players. He's at the gym. He's working out. He's catching balls. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all throughout,
Mhm.
if you look at all the points that has been made, everything is a green check mark for him.
Yeah, everything's a
Like the
good sign.
relationship, the work that he's doing, everything like is in the positive direction. There is nothing negative to see here.
Yeah, it's cheap cost. It's just going to be,
Mhm.
I think everything's in his hands, right? So if you're someone
Yeah,
like Trenton and
exactly.
don't believe in him, then maybe you won't buy him even if he's super cheap. But if you do believe in him, I feel like
Mhm.
everything's good. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't gotten injured at all or anything. So he spent a while here on Nikhil, but he's so polarizing, honestly, because of how highly
Yeah.
touted he was last year and how we feel about him. So
It's and also it's all about the
mm,
cost, Dylan. Like we don't have to believe in him for him to be a good value.
that's true too. Even if he puts
Yeah.
up like decent numbers and like bad efficiency, he'd probably sell him. There's just a lot of volume there. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on here. Trenton, sorry, it took you a while here. Who's your buy?
My biggest winner of the offseason would have to be the Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton. What the Giants did in the offseason, I'll start with that. They added no competition for him really. It's going to be the same group as last year where he actually really did really well. Started breaking out near the end of the year. They did improve their offensive line, which was struggling at some points last year. They weren't that great in the ground game, so I believe fixing the offensive line the way they did will open up holes for Saquon Barkley and then keep the defenses more honest down low. They were decent in the passing game, but they still gave up the bottom half of the league in sacks. So improving that, I believe they added at every single position on the offensive line. They added a guy that could come in and either this year or in a few years be that starting guy. So that's huge for them on offense. You flip to the defense. they didn't really add anybody outside of Xavier McKinney that will make an impact at least right away, if not ever, because they didn't add much. So their defense is still going to be garbage, and they're going to have to pass a ton. So you're looking at that guy on a team where they have to catch up in games a lot, and they have a young rookie quarterback that really, really started breaking out around week 8 last year. So, and from then on, he actually looked really good in his last 7 games he played. So you look at that in his last 7 games, other than the Green Bay game. I'll have to say that Green Bay game was horrendous from him. But he has a young ascending sophomore quarterback now, and he's looking to be possibly that number 1 guy on that offense. He really looked good last year. And one thing that's really underrated about him, he had 3 multi-touchdown performances. You don't see that from most receivers. You look at him, he has great touchdown efficiency. And sure, that may not be viable again. He may not do that again, but he's still going to be a guy that they're going to look at in the red zone. Plus, he has that deep threat capability. He has that speed. So he can get touchdowns in the red zone, and he can also get touchdowns from anywhere on the field. He's going to score a decent bit, and he's going to get you chunk yardage. He's going to get you decent yardage, and he's paired with a young quarterback that seems to really love passing him the ball. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like Slayton too, to be honest. If you didn't know this, Daniel Jones, if he played 16 games, was going to be on pace to throw for more touchdowns than Baker Mayfield did as a rookie. I believe it was something like 35. It was something ridiculous. Like, Daniel Jones was super inconsistent. When he was hot, he was incredible, honestly. He had a game versus
He
Tampa
had
Bay,
18 in his last 7 games. I checked it. 18 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in his last 7 games.
Yeah, if he can clean up the fumbles, he's really good. So Slayton, obviously,
And 20 fumbles.
Yeah.
Include the fumbles. Here, I'll
Yeah.
add the fumbles.
Fumbles are important, but
yeah, he had.
what's up?
Okay, yeah, he had a decent bit, but
Yeah, he can he has
Yeah.
struggles with fumbles, but Darius Slayton doesn't care about the fumbles. So
Yeah.
as long as the defense is bad, I think Darius Slayton has an opportunity there. I think Sterling Shepard's a little interesting too, but
Yes.
I don't know who's cheaper. Slayton might actually be more expensive. I should look into some
Yes.
startups.
Honestly, I think Slayton is expensive, and I think the clear winner is Shepard, because if you look, then he always had almost 8 targets every game that when he was on the field. So in every game, and I think in PPR, I am very, very interested in Shepard. I think he is a clear winner because of this offseason.
Yeah,
Much more than Slayton.
I do like both of those receivers. Someone will be the number 1 there. It could even be Golden Tate, which might be the lamest option for Dynasty,
Yeah.
but you know, should we move on here to my draft winner here? I think we should. So my draft winner here is my favorite person in the world, Austin Eckler. I haven't been the biggest Eckler enthusiast, and I think I chose this name. I sniped it from Trenton because I think accountability is important on this podcast, on this YouTube channel. So obviously, I thought they're going to bring in competition. They had a second, they had a third, they had a fourth, they had a, you know what I mean? And they weren't drafting somebody in the first round, but they had a lot of picks. They end up spending the second and the third to move up to grab Kenneth Murray in the first round. So, well, there goes that. I don't really, at that point, they did grab Josh Kelly, I think, in the fourth. And they said they had they were going to take him in the third round, but they didn't have a pick there. So I guess that's a little good there for Josh Kelly. But am I scared of Josh Kelly for Austin Eckler? No. Do I think Josh Kelly's going to take some of the touches like Melvin Gordon did? Yes. But do I think Josh Kelly's worse than Melvin Gordon? Yes. Also, yes. So I was kind of leading you. No hot take here. So I think it could be a lot worse than Josh Kelly. Like, let's say it's a Zach Moss, even, who I hate, or an AJ Dillon, or maybe even like a J.K. Dobbins. Let's say he hypothetically slides or they trade up. So it could be a lot worse. That's my point. So Eckler should be lock and loaded in this year. My problem with him still is he has fluctuating touchdowns. They weren't sticky. And what I mean by that is a lot of the touchdowns he scored weren't in the red zone. And that makes sense because he doesn't get goal line carries. And even in the target receptions, too, they're like 30-yard long, receptions. Good news, PPR don't give no fuck, right? I mean, PPR leagues, he's going to be a beast. So that's what matters. So Eckler's a winner. I don't know if I put him in my top 12 dynasty because he's just such a small guy, and kind of saw with Lindsay that these small guys kind of get replaced eventually. So I don't know. He could be a good buy for a contender, though. I like Eckler, even though I don't think he's really good at running the football at all.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, except for the last sentence.
Really?
I
He
think
was
is a
not
good.
efficient
Yeah,
running the football at all. Yards
he
created, juke
was.
rate, no.
He broke a lot of tackles, man.
Yeah, David
Yeah,
Montgomery broke a lot of tackles too in college, and that hasn't done him too well.
not college, in the NFL. Eckler
I
broke a
can
lot of
pull it up.
tackles last year.
Hold on. I could pull it up for you. On Twitter, I actually have a spreadsheet of all these numbers here, pinned on my
While
Twitter.
you're pulling it up,
Yeah, sure.
While you're pulling it up, I'll mention something.
Yeah.
I love Eckler. Everybody knows I love Eckler. I really like him because he is a guy that's one of the best pass catching backs, if not the pass catching back in the NFL. You can argue that he's even better at catching passes than Christian McCaffrey. It's arguable. It's debatable. That's insane because Christian McCaffrey is an amazing pass catcher. But those are your clear top two guys. So he's going to put up amazing numbers in PPR. He didn't get many rushing attempts last season. But here's the thing. With Melvin Gordon gone, they're going to give a guy that they didn't run the ball a lot more attempts to run the ball. His numbers are going to go up in that department. Sure, they brought in a guy in the draft that will come in and take some touches. But Eckler will run the ball even more than he did last season, and he'll be on the field more. And look at those first 4 games of the season with Melvin Gordon out. Eckler was insane. He was arguably the best running back in football over those 4 weeks, just because he was putting up such amazing numbers. When Melvin Gordon came back, they tried to put it more into a timeshare. Didn't work out too well because Melvin Gordon couldn't stop fumbling the ball. But we're not getting into that. Eckler is even after a couple weeks once they figured out that Eckler was their lead guy. Eckler continued to put up big numbers, even splitting some carries with Melvin Gordon. So he's going to put up big numbers, and I really love him because they're going to start feeding him the ball more on the ground, and he's still going to get that passing volume.
Yeah, you ready for some numbers, boys? So Austin Eckler is 26th out of the top 50 PPR running backs in juke rate, so he's average in that department. To Snotton's point, yards created, he was like 37th, I believe. Kind of my main concern here, just to back it up here, his touchdown distribution, I believe, how do I put this? His TD distribution, I believe 45% were in the red zone. So that's what I mean by they aren't sticky. Also, his offensive line's bad. They did improve on it too. Just kind of going through the numbers here. But yeah, even David Zach's yards created per attempt versus expected, he was still 29th. So I think he's a little over. I think he is maybe more average than bad. I might have been a little harsh, but something to think about.
But see, they did improve on their offensive line.
Yes,
just
and
nobody's going to notice it
because
they're bringing back.
Yards created is used mostly when someone is transitioning from college to NFL. When he is already in that team, which has that kind of offensive line, why do we have to care about the yards created for our for fantasy points?
Yeah, it's definitely less sticky, but I was just trying to make the point because you were like, oh, he's not as good of a run. I think he's overrated as a run. Some people think he's...
Yeah, if you are in behind a shit line and you are not getting anything in fantasy, but your yards created are good, I'm not going to draft you over someone who is getting me a lot of fantasy points because their O-line is good, right? So we don't care about that. After we care about that only for the rookies.
Yeah, I think you're missing my point. I wasn't saying that to be like, oh, this is good or this is bad for fantasy. My point was to say that because of my real life claim that he was good or bad at football. So I backed it up with some numbers at running the football, excuse me. So that was kind of an independent fantasy thing there. You can take value however you want. It's not as sticky as coming up for college, you're right. But there's his draft capital is kind of bad too. And overall, I feel good about Eckler. My one worry though that I didn't mention, Felix Laporte, Phillip Rivers is gone. Phillip Rivers would love to check down to his running back. Justin Herbert does like to feed his running backs. CJ Verdell out of Oregon had a fair amount of receptions, I believe like 20 plus. But he likes to throw screens a lot to his wide receivers too. So I don't know if there will be a lot of Austin Eckler screens. And even if they are, I don't know if he'll check down to his running back like how we want to see Eckler used. If he's the best receiving back in all of football, we don't want to just see him doing screens. We want to see him running Texas route, angle routes, want to see him going on out routes, right? So it's a lot more, than that. So that's all. I'm kind of worried about like a basic offense because Herbert is a dumbo.
Mhm. Too
um,
soon.
yeah, he was Dumbo in college. He was so inconsistent. Mitch Trubisky
Yeah.
flashes there. But let's move on here. 20 minutes, and thank you so much for listening. Back to Sanatam draft loser. Who do we got?
Yeah, I think I did not expect this. My draft loser is Darrell Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that Rams have so many, needs in their offensive line. They also had needs on their
Mm-hmm.
defense. I for sure, and after this guy, Cooks was gone, I thought they will also invest in wide receiver early, probably. But looking at them invest their top pick on the running back position just gives it away. Like in the off season, people were buying Henderson for late first or early second, and I was not, I was not a fan of Henderson, but I was not like raising my eyebrows on them because I thought maybe he has the opportunity for some work this
Mm-hmm.
year. I did not envision that Rams will select a running back early, but they did. They spent quite a bit of draft capital on Akers, and Akers was my third favorite running back before the draft. I really like his pass catching ability,
Mm-hmm.
his yards created. Like he is a tough guy who ran behind a very bad offensive line in Florida. So that will not be a big change for him because Rams offensive line is bad too. And I think if Henderson was even average, forget good,
Mm-hmm.
then he could have gotten some opportunities last year. So last year Gurley was there, we all know that, but he could not even beat out Malcolm Brown, who is still there uh, uh, on Rams roster. Like he had half of the carries that Malcolm Brown got, almost similar receptions. I don't see a path for Henderson to get those touches that people are believing that he might still get after Akers is there. I was very skeptic before Akers was drafted. I thought Malcolm Brown will have like 50-50, if not 60-40 split with Henderson. But now I just feel that Henderson, the only way he gets something is through pass catching, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
also not sure because Akers is very good in that area too.
Yeah, he's really good pass protector too, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's very good and he's very smooth in pass catching too. I mean, probably after Swift, I think he's the best pass catcher in this, in this class. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why, I mean, looking at all this, I have no hopes for Henderson. I think he's a big loser.
Yeah, Henderson before Trent goes here, it's just kind of a bad scheme fit too, because they kind of run this zone scheme, and the problem is, Darrell Henderson isn't really the most kind of east to west kind of runner. He's more north to south, right? He finds the big hole, he hits it, he's gone, right? The problem with the zone scheme is you have to go here. Okay, is my hole here? No. Then I gotta go here. Is my hole here? No. And I'm gonna go off the screen. You know what I mean? That's kind of, you have to have that agility, that lateral agility, and that's something that he may have athletically, but he didn't show on film, right? That was kind of his
Yeah.
weakness. And Trent can back me up here. He can disagree. I'm not the biggest film connoisseur like some, but that's what I noticed. So I thought the fit was kind of weird. If the Rams offensive line was like super duper good, I think it could be a little bit better because they'll give him more time to process. But Akers is kind of similar in that regard, but Akers actually showed some agility, and showed that ability to run west and east, unlike Henderson. So maybe that's why I think it's such a bad thing for Henderson too, because he already wasn't that spectacular. Now somebody's coming in who could fit that role better.
Yeah, Akers is much better fit for that scheme than he was. It's it's not really even that close. You said that they were similar in that regard. No, they're not. Akers is much more agile. He's much better fit for that scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And so Henderson's value is going to be capped because he's going to be behind, as Sanatan said, Malcolm Brown still, potentially.
Mm.
And he's a much worse fit than their current draft pick. So, I mean, they drafted him with the intentions of him, Akers, with the intentions of giving him time, giving him touches. So, I mean, sure, they lost Gurley, who had a lot of touches. All of those could be taken over by Akers. And then, so that still leaves very little for him. So it's tough.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they either use a committee like they came out and said, or if maybe Akers takes over just because the other guys aren't that good.
If
Um,
Henderson was on the Colts, I would be very, very interested because he needs a very good offensive line to just show his burst that he has.
shows
That's the
burst,
only
help him with
thing.
his
Yeah,
reads. Yeah.
yeah,
He
that's the
has
only
great
thing going
burst.
for
He just
him. Yeah, yeah, cannot create on his own.
He can't create on his own once the hole's there, though. That's something I think he's very good at. Once the hole's there, he's like a missile. Lightning McQueen out here, okay? So let's move on here. Some jokes here for you in the Fantasy Flavor
Wow.
podcast and YouTube channel. Trenton, you're next here. Who's your biggest loser in the draft?
All right, so I'm going to start out by saying, please never do that again.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The listeners
but,
leaving the podcast like zoom.
But for my biggest loser, who I think is honestly the biggest loser of the offseason, aside from a guy we might talk about later, that's a certain Green Bay Packers quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest loser of the offense or of the offseason is Darren Waller. Because you look at last season, he had no competition.
Yeah.
They had Tyrell Williams, and their wide receiver 2 was a toss-up between Zay Jones and Hunter Renfrow. Not very awe-inspiring. He was their option. He was their guy. They had nobody else to go to. That's why he was their guy. This offseason, in the draft alone, they got 3 guys that could come in and give big competition. They got Henry Ruggs, they got Edwards, and they also brought in Lynn Bowden, who they've said they wanted to play at running back, but they've also said they want to move around a lot. So they now have pass catchers. They have those weapons. They still have Tyrell Williams, who is a decent guy in his own right, in my opinion. So they have a lot more competition for him now, and so I feel like his numbers are going to decline just because he'll be seeing less targets. On top of that, he is, in my opinion, that Travis Kelce type of tight end. He's going to be that guy that gets you chunk yardage, big yardage numbers, but he's not going to score a whole ton. He'll score an okay amount. He scored 3 times last season. He's more built for the open field. He's that wide receiver type guy that'll catch the pass, get chunk yardage, go down. He's not going to score. He's not that red zone guy. He is that yardage guy. And that yardage isn't sustainable with other weapons. So his yardage is going to go down, and his touchdown, he doesn't have the touchdowns to cover for that. Like, you have certain tight ends that if you add other weapons, they would have the touchdown ability to cover for it. They could catch maybe a couple more touchdowns and put up similar numbers. That isn't what Waller is. He's not that touchdown dependent guy. He's the yardage and catches dependent guy, and he's not going to get those. He's not going to get that again.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I do think I'm going to kind of break it down by pick. I thought, the best case scenario for Waller was if they did grab Henry Ruggs there, because he won't catch as many passes. I feel like Waller kind of wants to work over the middle, right? He kind of wants to work that field, and Henry Ruggs, he's going to be kind of going vertical there. A lot of vertical, maybe some underneath stuff, but if let's say you run, have him on a drag, maybe the safety will come down to double, Henry Ruggs, and then that'll open up a vertical passing play like you talked about there for Darren Waller. So I thought that was a good schematic fit, even if the volume goes down. But then you add in Bryan Edwards, who I think kind of plays that same role as Darren Waller, but I love Bryan Edwards too. And then you still have Hunter Renfrow there. And here's the big thing about Waller. Waller's splits with and without Hunter Renfrow are severely different. Darren Waller is not good at fantasy football production when Hunter Renfrow's there, because Hunter Renfrow kind of takes down that check down option. He kind of takes over that middle of the field. So, yeah, I kind of already thought his stock was down regardless of who they added, but I definitely get how it could be worse. So I don't know if Sanan has anything to add. That's all I have to say about Darren Waller.
No, same thing. I thought that based on regression itself, it is going to come down, but this makes it worse.
Yeah,
So,
touchdowns could maybe
I
go
agree.
up though, but they added Jason
Could
Witten
be,
too.
but
So
who cares? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's move on here to my loser. I'm going to make it a lot quicker here because Kerryon Johnson, we loved him. I was the lowest on him coming in, and he was my RB12, Dynasty RB12, and that was lowest. I mean, that's a yikes from us. We love the Godwin train, but the
Keep in mind this was last year, not this year.
Yeah, last year. No, this year he's my RB3. Obviously, I'm just kidding. Please don't listen to that. Just overall, Kerryon kind of was always like this bigger guy, but when you look at his weight, he's only like 210, 213. He's always been kind of that lighter guy, even though he looks bigger than he is. Athletically, he's kind of always sub-average. But the thing that happened was they added Darrell Bevel, and they cut Theo Riddick, and then he went to the Broncos, I believe. So there's a whole bunch of reception work there already, and Kerryon looked pretty good in that regard. There's a whole bunch of rushing opportunity. LeGarrette Blount, busy gown, right? So it's just there's so much opportunity there for Kerryon, but my dude broke down. My dude, like week 2, he said, "All right, I'm done. I'm good. I'm gonna rest for a few weeks." Right? Obviously, he got injured, right? And it was it might have been an ankle sprain, I believe. It was not the best there. So just kind of overall, it's just the injuries hurt, and then you had DeAndre Swift. That's kind of the main thing that hurts his value. He was still interesting, but he definitely plummeted when he couldn't stay healthy. And then when he was back, they ran a committee, and Bo Scarborough showed some things. And DeAndre Swift is terrible because Swift's probably a better pass catcher. Darrell Bevel already doesn't target his running backs much. Maybe bottom 3 targeting the running back team there in the league. So it's kind of bad for the both of them. And now you add someone in who can catch on third down. And our Kerryon Johnson isn't a power back. He is only 210. He might need to put on weight. So I don't even know if he's a good compliment. The coaching staff did come out and say that, Kerryon Johnson is going to be, DeAndre Swift will be a good compliment to Kerryon Johnson. I don't know what that means. Why are you taking Swift in the second round if you want to compliment back? But, I mean, maybe they really do believe. Kerryon's looked fine when he's healthy, but obviously if they draft Swift in the second round, that's really good draft capital there. And, Kerryon, maybe he'll be traded, hopefully, because I don't think he's bad. He just can't stay healthy, couldn't stay healthy there at Auburn.
I think they want 2 running backs, though.
Yeah, they want 2 running backs, which is kind of why you have to be weary on Swift in some regards. But if you believe in Swift's talent, let's say Kerryon goes down, I don't know, but definitely a committee there, 100%.
Yeah, totally agree.
I have nothing more to add.
Nothing.
You nailed it on the head.
DeAndre Swift
it's pretty simple.
Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
a few more losers.
A few more losers, just because Aaron Rodgers, the biggest loser of all. Crybaby, overrated. 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions in the NFC Championship game. Not to go, okay? And this proved
Matt LaFleur really screwed him over, man. That Packers, this is the first time I am feeling bad for Aaron Rodgers, How can you feel bad for such a, what do you call, arrogant guy? But I do feel bad for him because he's very talented and they're just fucking with him, honestly.
Yeah.
Some other losers, you guys, in your mind, some other losers that who could be, I think Fant is a loser little bit because now they have a lot of options in the middle too. Judy is a great option in the middle of the field, and he is going to take away some of the targets from Fant. I think Sutton also loses some value. I personally think that they're not going to be that high volume anyways because they still want to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think Ronald
Who
Jones
else do you guys
loses
think?
some value too. Ronald Jones. People thought
Yeah,
he could potentially stay there. Yeah,
definitely.
Twitter loved Ronald Jones, so
He was a loser regardless.
yeah, I mean, not the best. He never fit what Tom Brady wanted there, to be honest. Any other? Do you have any other losers?
I'll give you a winner.
Yeah, sure.
I'll give you a winner. Drew Lock.
Yeah, Drew Lock's a big
Drew
winner.
Lock.
We've seen a lot of these sophomore quarterbacks blow up and be top fantasy producers and points per game. Carson Wentz, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson.
Don't listen to Dylan. That's not happening.
Drew Lock could be the next. It's going to be Drew Lock or Daniel Jones, baby.
They did add 2 of my favorite wide receiver targets in the draft. They added Jerry Jeudy, who was my top guy going into the draft, and they added KJ Hamler, who was, I believe, my wide receiver 6 going in.
Yeah.
Too soon to anoint him like the star. Too soon, guys. Don't talk about top 5.
It
Yeah.
is, but he is a clear winner of this offseason. They
Yes,
added so much around
definitely.
him.
Yes.
Yeah, and
But don't go on buying. Like I have seen people buy lock for, in one quarterback league, second rounder, plus they are giving away a
yeah.
quarterback from their
Mhm.
side. I just
It's close.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I feel like
yeah,
Jalen
people are
Hurt.
on the
Mhm.
same feeling that people had about Baker last year.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Exact same feeling somehow. Baker
Hmm.
quarterback,
Mhm.
though they did ball a lot. They have beefed up their O line with good run blockers, and they added Gordon along with Lindsey. I just think they have a good defense too. So please don't hype up. Just saying to the listeners, don't go for that top 5 thing and start paying up a
Mhm.
lot for him.
I'm all
Just
in
be
on locking
careful.
Daniel Jones. I disagree. Go buy those dudes before they blow up. Just for Superflex
Mhm.
listeners here, I think Jarrett Stidham's a winner there. If you took a gamble on him, the Patriots kept coming out and saying they liked him. Obviously, that was true. I mean, if you're a Pats fan like me, you know it's true. Everything kind of pointed that direction, but Jalen
Mhm.
Hurts was kind of a loser too. There, people like Jalen Hurts as a sleeper in
Oh yeah,
Superflex
love.
leagues,
Mhm.
and his upside is if a player gets injured. So, not the best. I don't have anything else though. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I just
No.
want to add that our listeners should keep in mind that these are winners and losers of the offseason, not guys that we would draft and guys that we won't draft. I mean, some of these guys that are losers, we might still draft later in drafts we're in. Some of these guys that we have as winners are guys that we're looking more at late round and we're not guys that we're going to pick like in the first 5 rounds. I mean,
Mm.
it's not that. It's that these guys are guys that came into the offseason. We expected them to get worse, or we expected them to get better, or we just didn't expect anything for them, and then they either got worse or better. It's not fantasy related in that way. It's just that this guy got a lot better team around him per se.
Yeah, definitely well said there.
Okay.
Okay,
I
and
think
with
we
that
got.
being said, just a reminder to listeners and viewers on YouTube: if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Don't even know if that's a word. If you're on podcast platform, same thing to you. Leave a 5-star rating. Make sure to subscribe there too. Please, please, please put a smile on our faces. We really need it. Yeah, Sonan's not getting any sleep, so
Yeah.
that would mean a lot to us. And with that being said, we are out. Take care, stay safe, and have a good rest of your day.